It's been a month since Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel, which triggered relentless airstrikes on the Gaza Strip by Israeli forces. Despite weeks of diplomatic talks, there is no ceasefire in sight. The humanitarian crisis in the besieged enclave is becoming more dire, prompting the UN Human Rights High Commissioner to make a 5-day trip to the Middle East to mitigate the situation.
I'm, of course, from a human rights perspective, extremely worried about the situation, about what is happening, and it is really important that a solution is found to end the violence and to get out of this horrible humanitarian and human rights situation for what's happening in Gaza.
The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees has described Israel's recent actions as, quote, a humanitarian tragedy of colossal proportions, referring to the forced displacement and treatment of residents in Gaza. The agency says 70% of Gaza's population is now displaced, with many living in inhumane conditions. The Palestinian Health Ministry says more than 10,000 people have been killed in the Strip, a number the UN's Martin Griffiths says defies humanity. All this comes as the UN Security Council failed yet again to agree on a resolution on the war. Meanwhile, Indonesia has rejected accusations from the Israeli military that the Indonesia hospital in Gaza has been used by Hamas to launch attacks. It reaffirmed that the purpose of the institution was to, quote, fully serve the medical needs of Palestinians in the enclave. Jakarta added that the hospital is currently treating patients at a level that far exceeds its capacity. The Palestinian Authority says more than 60% of Gaza's hospitals and medical centers are now out of service amid ongoing bombardment. Medical complex in Gaza City suffered hits from Israeli missiles overnight, killing at least 8 Palestinians. The World Health Organization reported that more than 160 healthcare workers have died on duty in the enclave. In Jerusalem, dozens gathered at the Western Wall, where 1,400 candles were lit in memory of those who died in the unprecedented attacks by Hamas on the 7th of October. Families of those taken captive by Hamas, however, are still searching for any updates on their loved ones. For more, Sarah Coates joins us live from Tel Aviv. Sarah, Israeli forces tightening their encirclement of Gaza City. Is there a sense in Israel that the next moves on Hamas could end its defense of the territory?
Highway Sue. Well, look, that's certainly the aim of the Israeli military, although people here on the ground here in Israel know it will be an extremely tough battle as troops do enter Gaza City. As you can imagine, these Hamas militants, this is where they live, this is where they've been training, and they are extremely well acquainted with this area. We also know that there's around 300 miles of tunnels that run underneath the Gaza Strip. It's commonly known as the Metro, and Israeli troops will certainly be confronting things like booby traps, grenades, and also these Hamas fighters popping in and out of these tunnel systems. So look, it's certainly not going to be easy, but we have seen the IDF issue yet another evacuation order, evacuation notice to these Palestinian residents who may still be in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. And it has just released some visions, some pictures of hundreds and hundreds of people walking along Salah al-Din Road, which is the road that goes from the north to the south of the enclave. Many of them have their hands in the air. Others are waving white flags. So, look, it certainly looks like this military incursion into Gaza City could happen any time. The military did say it would give it around 48 hours. That was Sunday night. It's now Tuesday, 2 p.m. So it certainly could happen any moment.
Sarah, meanwhile, pressure building for Israel to allow a humanitarian pause. The Prime Minister offering instead slight softening. He's saying he is considering so-called tactical little pauses for aid and hostage release in this ongoing offensive. What exactly might this be, and how might it play out?
Well, look, from what we understand, Sue, these could be small little breaks of around an hour. But look, they are being slammed as simply not enough. Aid is very quickly running out. We have heard from the World Health Organization that already 160 healthcare workers have lost their lives since all of this began more than a month ago now. They do say that hospitals have basically collapsed. A spokesperson for that aid agency also saying that some doctors are having to perform operations like amputations without anaesthetic. So, look, any kind of pause, though, I'm sure would be welcome as Israel continues to bombard the Strip. And we do need to also remember about the Israelis and the foreigners being held there in the Gaza Strip. As you mentioned just before, there's been a day of mourning here in Israel. A number of families of these 140 or 240 odd hostages, I should say, remain outside the Knesset in Jerusalem, vowing that they will not leave until there's some sort of a solution or firm, concrete commitment from the government to try and get their loved ones home. Because, as we can imagine, once these Israeli troops enter the Gaza city, this will put their loved ones in much more danger. So, look, certainly a very complicated situation. Wei Su.
Thanks, Sarah Coles reporting there from Tel Aviv.